One skulking behind you, Tim. Trench coat on.
It's a ghost. The basement's haunted.
Right, let me just make sure that we're rolling. Okay, there's like a 20-second delay between us and then when it reaches YouTube. So I just want to make sure that it's going and that I'm muted on my end so that I can still monitor any questions asked, but also not having us talk back at me 20 seconds later.
Should we put ourselves on mute unless we're answering a question, Caitlin? Or
I think that's good. It's always good to mute yourself unless you're answering. Just kind of keeps everything nice and clean.
cool.
Okay, let's see. All right. Great. I think we are good. Hello, everyone. Hello, BDT family and friends. Thank you for joining us for our Talkback about Mala by Melinda Lopez and starring Mary Mendez Rizzo. My name is Caitlin McNicka. I am the Associate Artistic Director here at BVT, and I'll go around my Zoom screen and I'll just have everyone introduce themselves and what you did on this production. So let's start over with Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Bowers. I'm Executive Artistic Director at the BVT.
Excellent. And then Rich.
Hi, I'm Rich Miller. I am the sound designer for Mala.
Mary Mendez Rizzo.
Hi, I'm Mary Mendez Rizzo. I am an actress and I play Mala.
I have to say all of your names all at once, just Mary Mendez Rizzo. It just sounds
That's right.
so
Yes,
correct.
I appreciate that.
Sean.
My name is Sean Sullivan, and I am the costume designer for the show.
Wonderful. Emma.
Hi, my name's Emma, and I am the stage manager for Mala.
And Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim McMath, and I'm the set designer.
And we have a special guest from the Rochester Latino theater community. This is Annette Ramos. Hi, Annette.
Hello, everyone. Wonderful.
Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who are watching live on Zoom, hello and welcome. You can drop any questions you have into the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, and as I see them I will open them and pass them along to our panelists. If you are watching on YouTube, hello, you can also drop any comments or questions in the YouTube comments and we'll be happy to answer them. But I will get the ball rolling. I've asked similar questions a couple times already this season, but I find it very interesting. You know, every year at every Talkback, inevitably our actors are asked, how did you memorize all those lines? And this is a very particular set of skills for this show. So Mary, I feel like every actor so far this summer has had a different answer for how they memorize all the lines included in a one-person show. It's you talking for what, an hour 15, something like that. So explain to us the mechanics. How did you actually do that?
So I am an auditory learner. And so a big portion of it for me was recording myself in my iPhone notes, just like Mala does, pulling out my iPhone and recording a scene at a time. And then I did one reading consistently all the way through so that I could not only pull out particular scenes and run them through, but that I could also get used to the flow of the entire play, how it sounds. The play, however, is incredibly personal for me. And so my 88-year-old mother lives with me. I am her primary person, providing care and looking out for her and just concerning myself with her, emotional, medical and physical and financial wellness, all of that, right? So I take care of a lot of that for her. And so part of the just relatability of the script helped with the memorization, because a lot of the scenarios were so similar that it was almost like recalling some of my own memories. And then I just had to, learn the specific order of the words as written in the script.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Karen, here's a question for you. In preparation for this season, we read lots and lots of one-person plays. What about Mala stuck out to you? I personally remember you, sometimes you read a play and I'll ask you, how's that play? That's good. I could see how it could work. Mala was one of those that I think you got maybe 5 pages in and you were like, I've got one, I've got it. And then you finish it and you were like, yep, this is one. So what stood out to you so immediately about Mala?
Well, it was, I think, the first show that we chose definitively for the season. We were reading a lot of plays, and this was the first one, as you say, that I knew this is it. And I think because it is so, as Mary suggested, it is so relatable. It was so similar to experiences I've had. I knew it would be so similar to so many people's experience, and sort of reach across whatever boundaries lie between. The whole point of this season this summer was, we're calling it the 7 American season, and we're bringing in 7 different stories, but hopefully stories that everybody can relate to. I guess that's what art is always trying to do. But in particular, in the sort of divided times in which we live, we really wanted to share stories that said, yes, I am like you. I have had these fears and hopes and dreams and what have you. And Mala certainly was that for me personally, and as Mary expressed for her, and I knew that it would be for so many of our audience members. So that's why was the first thing we decided to do.
I've heard a lot of feedback from people who have seen the show of like, oh wow, people just really relate to it. I know people in my immediate family have seen it, and even though they don't have exactly the same life as Mala, it's very relatable. It's a wonderfully unique and also universal piece. Rich Miller, here's a question for you. So the script doesn't have a whole lot of it has some kind of vague mentions about scenic or design elements, but doesn't give a whole lot of specifics about what is going to happen. So how did you come up with the soundscape that you used, and the music that's both in and before and after the show?
Great question, because this was an actually tough show, because the script didn't kind of say, this is really what's happening, this is the what we suggest kind of the theme is. So the director and I came up with a lot of different ideas. Wanted to kind of stick with the motifs of the show, so we started with a lullaby for the beginning of the show, and was going to carry that through, but that didn't always convey the emotion that we wanted, so we picked some different things. And one of my favorite ones is Kate Reynolds, the director, found one where somebody's playing chimes and actually has their hand in a bucket of ice stuff and is actually making ice sounds to be the glacier. So it's really fantastic, some really unique stuff, and really took a lot of looking and a lot of inspiration for this show, as well as for pre-show finding things that were dancey enough to get people moving in the parking lot.
Yes, that's right. We found during pod 1, we really enjoyed the dance party element of pre and post show. Excellent, wonderful. Thank you so much, Rich. Annette, I have a question for you. I love the shirt that you currently have on that says La Voz de mi gente, which, correct me if I'm wrong, means the voice of my people.
Correct.
And that actually reminds me of one of the first emails that we exchanged. You said to me, it's not just about doing the accent, it's about portraying the culture respectfully. And so I would love for you to, can you can you speak towards the importance of representation, the importance of listening to other people's voices, especially when it comes to Latina women and Latinx performers?
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say thank you for taking on such a beautifully written production. Great choice. Obviously, the casting really enhanced the story. So kudos to Mary Rizzo, our girl. But really, the bigger significance is where cultures really come together for the universal story of caring for our elders. So when I look at productions, I really look at how is that organization reaching that community, and where can we have a bridge that connects those communities. And that was a really important piece. And so I was so happy that you did reach out, because that's an important element, authentic connections, connecting to the cultural community that you want to represent and portray in this story. And so I'm extremely proud that so many Latinos caravanned out to Naples. We felt your love and your welcoming spirit in your town. Your theater was engaging and inviting, and these are significant because we as artists really know about creating environment and creating community. We work in ensemble. Even a one actress, a one character show has an entire ensemble behind her, so, or him, and in this case, a fabulous her. And that's really an important element, is the support of the organization that invites the artist in and the playwright's work, the organization that takes that cultural connection seriously and ask for help to ensure that cultural integrity is maintained, the characters is profoundly deep from the perspective of understanding that culture and not just the language. I mean, we laughed so hard at all the Spanish lines in the show, and there's something also for an artist on a stage to hear that resonating identity even in the dual language. And even non-Spanish speakers could identify because of the context of the story. This is why it's so important for these wonderful partnerships. And I was thrilled to come and join and participate and ensure that you are well connected to the Latinx community in Rochester.
Thank you so much. And I couldn't agree more. I took a bit of Spanish, but it's been a while since high school. My parents can't speak a lick of Spanish. I think my mom can't even really pronounce tequila correctly. But she said I understood every word. I knew exactly what she was saying, which is a credit both to Mary and her performance, as well as Melinda Lopez, the writer. Tim McMath. Tim, you are a longtime scenic artist and designer here at the BVT. I like to think of you as a more is more type of designer. The kind of one of my personal favorite Tim McMath shows was The Drowsy Chaperone, which there was so much to look at. The whole set was just plastered constantly. Whereas this and if you saw Dead Air, you'll see that's a little bit on the more is more side of set design, whereas Mala is much more refined and it's much more minimalist. Can you speak a little bit about what moved you to design this piece in this way?
Sure. I mean, I definitely am. You're right. I definitely am sort of a maximalist. I like a lot of stuff. But this play really doesn't need much. Like, I could have not shown up at all, and it could have just been Mary up there on the stage, and it still would have been a beautiful moving evening. The words and the text and performance really are fairly self-supporting. So for me, it was more about creating an environment that supports with the action on the stage, and that sort of enhances it and provides a little bit of context for it. And enhances it. So this is more of an enhancement than it was providing a lot of specific information. Like I said, sometimes it has to do. Sometimes it's like, we're in New York City in 1912, and this is the room, and these are the props, and this play didn't need that. I was just looking back at the script, and the first stage direction is a bare stage, maybe screens, maybe there's a bowl of clementines or a blanket or an iceberg. And so this were sort of the images we started with, but like right there from the very beginning, she's like, you don't need much. You don't do too much for this. And so that's kind of where we started out. But I'm a more designer. So even I still wanted to have a gesture. So we came with this gesture, this upstage, we call it the swoop. And because, you know, in this play, this for one of the big images, one of the big visual metaphors for the play is these icebergs, you know, ice floes looking at the sea, but also beautiful crystalline things that are cold and imposing, but also beautiful and inviting. And so we're trying to like capture that energy on stage in a way that was lovely. So we created this upstage swoop that catches light beautifully, that Christina, the lighting designer, could light in interesting different ways, and really use that to tell a story. And also sort of like, there's also a very practical aspect of it, is that we're working in this 2-show rep where it's a switch back and forth between the 2 shows. And so I wanted to design something that was physically capable of being repped, that our small crew is able to bring on and off stage several times a day, every day for 3 weeks.
Yes, excellent. Thank you so much. I love the swoop. It's so beautiful. And shout out to our friends at Lake Country Woodworkers who helped us to cut that long kind of increasing angle, which was extremely helpful to us.
They totally saved their bacon there.
Emma, I have a question for you. So we lucked out in our first pod of shows when it came to weather. We even lucked out during Dead Air's tech rehearsals. And then this was, let's say, the most adventurous tech. So can you speak a little bit about, you know, the kind of new challenges that came along with performing outdoors when you only have 3 days to tech, and it looks like it's going to rain for those 3 days?
Yeah, so it was a challenge. We definitely had to kind of prioritize like what needed to be done when, and but also we had to kind of get everything done that we needed to get done before opening. So it was just kind of a lot of us working together and a lot of discussion about, okay, what can we do at this point? Can lighting work now, or can sound work now? So it was a lot of working around each other and working around the weather to kind of get everything done in time before opening. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yes, there was one evening, it was our last evening of tech. We wanted to make sure that we got that last run in, and we just all hung out in the lobby with all of our different weather and radar apps up, saying, okay, it's saying that it's going to stop in 3 minutes, and then we're going to carry everything out, you know, plug everything back in. And so we did basically, it was then late at night and we didn't want to interrupt our neighbors. So Mary got through the play in what, like 50 something minutes? And just go. And she wasn't mic'd, but she was still feeling every moment. And I gotta say, it was one of those like theater magic kind of moments, because Mary was still doing gorgeous work, even with it running through her head of like, okay, it could rain any minute, and also I'm in different shoes than I usually am because the stage was a little bit wet. And we got to the end and we wanted to applaud, but we snapped quietly instead. And it was great. We all kind of looked at each other and were like, this is a show. Even at warp speed, this is a show. Sean, you're currently visiting with family in our neck of the woods, well, kind of in Western New York, but usually you're in New York and you designed this whole show remotely. Can you talk a little bit about that process of designing costumes when you're several hours away?
It was an interesting process because so much of how I work is, like, as a costume designer, I think my responsibility is to have the performer feel confident and comfortable on stage. And like, I may have the greatest idea in the world, I might think, but if the performer is not confident and comfortable, then it's the worst idea ever. So what I missed about that, and part of the reason, like the process, they had this great person that came in, Zach, and he was really great. He dealt with everything. And at one point he was offering to take photographs in the fitting and then send it to me. But I wanted to talk to the performer as they're fitting, because I wanted to hear how Mary felt about it. And I wanted, and also sometimes an actor's very polite and sometimes they don't want to say something's a problem. So it's really important to watch the body language to make sure that they're confident, because if they don't like how the pants fit, they may not tell you because they want to sort of work through it. But it's, for me, it's easier to find a pair of pants that the performer likes than it is to try to sort of make something work when nobody's gonna be happy completely. So that was sort of interesting in terms of sort of shifting how I work, and also in terms of with Tim and the rest of the team. We only met like once as a team in terms of that, and that was sort of I wish in retrospect I wish we had done more of that, but it was sort of learning on the go. And I think in terms of the collaboration of everybody made it, and just in terms of what a generous artist Mary is, in terms of being able to sort of share her ideas with me and all of those type of things, which I really appreciate. So I think all in all, I found a way of doing the process in a different way. And I do think I addressed some of Mary's concerns, or, I felt I was taking care of Mary as the performer, which I think is the number one goal of a costume designer.
Absolutely. I know I've been costumed by you, Sean, several times before, and I know that that's always your kind of main rule, is making sure that your actors feel as good as they look. And I mean, and Mary's also obviously a dream to dress. So Mary, you have shared with us, I remember the first time we met you was over Zoom for your audition, and you had so much joy about you. One of the first things I remember you saying was that you were just so glad to have read the play, because it was like you were reading something from your own voice. So on behalf of everyone who's seen the show and will see the show, thank you for bringing all of that. I know how personal of a journey this one is for you specifically. So thank you for sharing such vulnerability with us. And I wanted to ask you about the joy in the piece. You're a very happy, bubbly person, and Mala is, it is a show about a very hard thing, but it's also so full of joy and so full of life. And I laugh much harder than you would think when you watch the show. So can you tell us about the process of finding the joy in such a difficult piece?
It's funny because I have a wonderfully supportive family. It's so many similarities. In Mala, the mother is the oldest of 8. And 8 is a number in our family. I am the youngest of 8. And my mother is, the matriarch. And there's just so many similarities. So for me, part of it was trying to find the areas that are charged and the areas that are frustrating, because once you get past those moments, they become funny as all get up. And we spend our time together as brothers and sisters in the family talking about, do you remember when mom called you that name? Because at the time, there's frustration, but afterwards, there's these funny memories. And I think a lot of that just comes from love. It's driven by love. One of the themes in the story, and my 19-year-old son picked up on this, Mala never tells her mother that she loves her. And she doesn't say it until it's too late. And so I know that feeling of being driven in all of these, in the frustration, in the pain, in the anger, in the joy. There's this underlying love that is driving all of this. And so tapping into that and reading these stories and feeling like so many of them are just my own memories, it was sort of easy to find a moment and say, is this one going to be charged or is this one going to be funny? Because I can try and play either or, because I remember when it was charged and I remember how it's funny now. So yeah, I think, everything in that play for me is coming from a very good, pure place. And so even like the pain, even the frustration, knowing that it's coming from there can flip it into a joyous or a funny moment.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's one of those universal kind of truths again, that you can never tell if you're close to laughter or close to tears. Sometimes it's both, and sometimes it's everything all at once. So thank you for that.
I have a follow-up to that. Is
Yeah.
it the same, Mary, from night to night? Or do you have, sometimes it's a funny expression of that incident that you're describing, and sometimes it's a more somber or deeply felt? Does it change each performance?
I think it does. I think there are some things that work, and that work consistently. And so I need to keep going back to that well for those moments. But there are other times when I'm like, this one feels like it could be a little different. And so let's play this one out. And let me tell you, you guys were there for rehearsals. There were some moments where it was Mary and not Mala. And I was like, let me take a minute here, because this one is resonating in a way that I need to work through first before I can actually perform it in a way that is more universal rather than personal. And so, yeah, I think there are times, my husband has seen the show multiple times, and he'll pick out different moments, and he'll say, he'll even say, oh, the way that you did that one was funnier than the last time, or I never heard it that other way before. So yeah, and I love Mala. And I think that's, as an actor too, I went into the script loving what I was reading, but then I needed to take myself out of it. And I wanted to love Mala so that I could tell her story. I'm not telling Mary Mendez Rizzo's story, even though there's so many similarities. I wanted to tell Mala's story. So that place of love was just an underlying theme for all of it for me.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Annette, we were talking when we saw each other this weekend at the show. You were listing off just a bunch of really exciting things happening in local theater. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a platform. What's coming up for the Rochester Latino Theater Company and everything in our region?
Well, we're reactivating the creative economy in downtown Rochester. The first I'll speak to is the Highland Bowl. Now that I'm with Monroe County Parks Department, that's my day job. But I am activating arts in the parks. So activating an outdoor venue in downtown is part of the vision of the County Parks Department, and really a place where all community theaters can come to show their work. And so that's a very exciting thing. We also are moving into a few grant opportunities that are going to be coming up through the city. We have finally, after 20 years of advocating, are going to be activating the hotel tax, which allows 1% of the city's budget to be allocated for arts funding. So there's an incredible group of community leaders working together. We're putting together our RFP. We're identifying, it's going to be an art grant. So bringing art to our city, to our community, and then cross-pollinations like this is really, really where theater is moving into across the country. Collaborative efforts that are intentional and authentic. And if you know anything about me, I've been saying this all year long, I am much too old for one-night stands, and especially when it comes to diversity and equity and inclusion. It has to be an intentional, long-term collaborative partnership. And that authentic relationship is what we're really looking for. So we're going to invite your company and your community downtown to La Marqueta, our international plaza as well. We have activated Clinton Avenue. If you don't know anything about Rochester, the one thing you'll remember at the end of this is that Rochester is the second largest city of Latinx population outside of New York City. So we are a strong, vibrant community. We're also loyal consumers, and you're looking, Mary and I, we're the head of the household purchasing department here. We consume everything in our house and we tell everyone else what they have to consume. And what I mean by that is we intentionally put our money where we want it to prosper and to also bring in and engage our children. Generations of youth should know that theater is a place that they belong, and the stage, behind, setting, design, lighting, all of those places, Latinx youth belong in those places. So I'm really excited. And then finally, just one last thing, Hispanic Heritage Month. September 15th through October 15th, it is amazing events. We're planning things with Monroe County, the city of Rochester's Hispanic celebrations, and the Memorial Art Gallery does one of the best cultural Latinx events of the year. So I've given you sort of the plethora, and I'll pass all those resources along. But we invite you all to come visit us as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I love that, reinvigorating the artistic economy. That's fantastic. That's exactly what it feels like. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for joining me. I want to ask one more question, kind of related to Mala, to everyone in the group. Throughout the play, there are several coping mechanisms that Mala has, whether it's taking notes on her phone so to remind herself of something later, or listing off some things, some sense things, things that will center her, the beautiful, wonderful things that kind of bring her back to that moment. Things that Mala says are things like one perfect clementine, my daughter's breath, my husband's hands, those kind of real things that bring her right back to that moment. So if you were going to list off 3 things that would bring yourself comfort, that would center yourself back in reality, what would those things be? I'll go first. I think I would say my T-Rex stuffed animal, the smell of pasta water, and my mother's fingernails. I can picture them so perfectly, and all of those things bring me back to like who I am. Karen, what are some things that you would list off? Oh, you're muted, Karen.
I'm trying to, there we go.
Perfect.
When I need to, I'm working more and more with breath and deep breathing and trying to unplug in that way. But also I hold one of my cats, usually my cats, sometimes my dogs, but usually my cats, close to my heart, and just take in their energy. And touch how soft they are, and that's a way to sort of recenter myself. And if the smell of basil, fresh basil or fresh thyme from my garden, will also be a very centering thing for me.
Love that. Rich Miller, what about you?
So the smell of lilacs, that's one of my favorites. A fresh, clean desk, as silly as that sounds. Karen, I'm not sure if she's experienced that. And my family.
Wonderful. Mary, what about you?
Prayer. I am a karate instructor, so hitting things.
Power.
I hit stuff. And I'm also a yoga instructor, so yoga. So prayer, yoga, and karate.
Excellent. Very centering practices. Sean, how about you?
Well, there goes anything deep. Trash television. That helps center me. And then I think, as corny as it sounds, I think family and friends, the other two F's. I mean, I feel the part of the reason I come back to visit my mother, besides it being her birthday, is that I feel connected in a sense of community and sense of love. And that's true of friends as well.
Excellent. And Nat, how about you?
My daughter's laughter and the smell of my garden every morning. And this last one, I will kill you if you tell anybody, my husband's jokes that I've been laughing at for 25 years.
Oh, that's wonderful. Emma, how about you?
My little pup, Kenzie, the smell of coffee, and BTS.
Have they released another music video?
Not since Permission to Dance, but
okay,
they're working on their new album.
Thank goodness.
I know. Woo.
And Tim, how about you?
I always inspired by cuddling with my elderly kittens who were asleep in my side car chair next to me. I have a second chair so they can sit next to me when I work. The feeling of grass and sand between my toes, and then impromptu, very brief afternoon dance parties. 15 seconds of dancing makes everything better.
Agreed. Wonderful. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for joining us in this talk back from all over New York. We all appreciate it so much. Thank you everyone for watching at home via Zoom or Facebook or YouTube. We appreciate you all, and we'll see you for the next show. Have a great night.